Hi, I'm RC Jim, and yes, I've had another mishap with my little eFlite P51, 1.2 meter wingspan. This thing is an absolute beast to fly, but what happened today had nothing to do with being a beast. We actually had an electronic failure. Now, fixing the the messed up landing gear, that's pretty simple. You know, got my splint in place and gluing back in the plastic set of bits. We'll straighten this guy out. No big deal there. But trying to work out what went wrong, that is a big issue. But fortunately, had a friend taking video, and I've got the flight log on my Radiomaster radio, and we can look into the detail, and I think I know what happened. Well, let's begin by having a look at the actual flight. This is going to be interesting. A nice direct crosswind happening with a plane that is very, very temperamental. Okay, so we're going to taxi out. Okay to take off? Okay, this one really likes to pull to the right. Sorry, pull to the left. Have to counter it with. So the throttle is totally cut, and then gradually we get started. So very slow getting going. And a bit of an issue right about there. It's very windy, and plus I'd hit full throttle right as I was leaving the ground, and the plane wasn't going fast enough to handle the torque. Okay, got my gear down. I'm going to land left to right.
Flaps down.
Got my flaps down. And not so sure about the left to right. Oh, I lost power. Oh, that is amazing. 3.8 volts. Well, it's a good thing to have it on video because we'll be able to compare the video with the flight log, and might be able to ascertain whether indeed the throttle or the engine, the motor actually quit, or whether it was just my imagination that it quit. But good that we got it down, we got it on its feet. It came down heavily, so we've bent one landing gear back and sort of ripped it loose a little bit here, so that'll be a little bit of a repair job, but nonetheless can be fixed. So let's figure out what's going on here. We begin by having a look at the video. And as we look at the video, we want to first off pick out a spot where we can synchronize the video with the telemetry. So a natural spot to look at is where we hit the throttle to prepare to take off. So we locate that spot in the video and we note the time. And I see that that was at 20 seconds into the video. Then we fast forward to where the problem was. And of course, in terms of the problem, we have the comment that I made about losing power. Oh, I lost power, but obviously it could have been just before that, you know, could have been a second or two or whatever before I actually said something. But we at least note when I've said lost power. Around that time, we also sort of go back and forth and we look a little bit at what's happening with regard to the plane. You know, is there a gust of wind that hits it? Is there anything that we can tell? You know, bird strike, you know, well, but, you know, something that potentially could give us a clue as to what's going on. We have a look for when it begins to lose altitude and, you know, things like that. I even had a look to see whether the prop was spinning. And yes, indeed, the prop was turning, but impossible to see in the video, or very difficult anyway, to ascertain how fast it was turning. Was it just windmilling due to the plane going through the air, or was it actually being powered? But get as much information as you can and make notes with regard to the time that various things take place. After that, we then need to have a look at the telemetry. And so the telemetry is recorded in your, well, if you have your option turned on for recording telemetry, and the Radiomaster radio, it's recorded, and you can nominate how often you want values to be recorded. So I have them recorded every half second. And so I just hook up my radio to the computer, get the file, download it onto the computer, and I save it as a normal Excel file. So then we just do a couple little modifications to what we've got here. First off, the time that it gives is in a format that it doesn't really understand. So what you do is you just highlight that row, and then you get over top of the row, and okay, you right click and go down to Format Cells. And in Format Cells, pick how you want it displayed. So I just have a normal time with AM, PM. Okay, so you click OK, and I'll just cancel it because I've already done that. And then you got the time of day displayed there. We then add a row in here, and this row initially is blank, but we put a formula in here, and we say let the time be whatever the time was in this row 3, take away the time from row 2. And then I put in the little $sign in there that says keep that 2 constant. So always make it whatever this time is minus that start time. So that gives us a time, but it's not synchronized with the camera. So then we go down to a spot where we have worked out what's going on. And so we have a look here and we say, okay, it's when the throttle gets advanced to take off. As I look at the throttle values over here, I see that, okay, the throttle is going from minus 1024 to plus 1024, okay? So we're taxiing out here, and then we quit the throttle, we stop the throttle, and then the throttle gets advanced. And of course we're advancing it very slowly, and it's gradually going up and up and up until we got full throttle, off we're going. I can also have a look at the altitude, and I can see that we've got, and this of course is not terribly precise, it's based on a atmospheric pressure, so gusts of wind and all kinds of things can make it modify a little bit. But we got these values close to 0 here, and then in here we see that we're getting well above ground. So this is around the time that we're actually leaving the ground when we are hitting full throttle, but prior to that is the run-up. But the point that we've identified is where we begin to advance the throttle, and that's this row right here. And as you look at that, that's at, well, right now it's on 28 seconds because I modified that, but you note whatever that time is, and I think it initially was 19 seconds. So what you then do is you modify your formula here by adding that 9 seconds. And in C409 is that value of 9 seconds. The $sign means that's always going to stay the same, so it's going to keep on adding 9 seconds to all these times. And so then this column here is the camera time. So the time that we took off was 28 seconds, so I can go down here to 28 seconds. I can highlight that row just to help me identify it. And I can see over here, yeah, because I'm doing it every half second, it's just recording the full second value, doesn't have half seconds in there. So 28 and 28. So in the middle of 28 is when the throttle gets advanced. It starts advancing, going off of nothing. So that synchronizes me with the camera. Well then, on the camera, I noted that I said lost power at 3:15. So we scroll down to 3:15, looking at the video time here. Okay, so 3:15 I've highlighted in yellow. That's when I said lost power. So we know that if something happened, it happened then or maybe a little bit before. So I'm looking for anomalies, things that are a bit wrong, And here on this row that I've highlighted in red, look at all the zeros, okay? So that's a hold. The radio has lost contact for a half second is all. So it's half of the 311 that it's came through with all the zeros. So that's not a big deal. Half second loses control. Right after that, immediately it's got everything going again, and we've got, well, these here for the values that the spreadsheet shows in this area, those are values from the radio transmitter, not feedback from the receiver. So just because I got values here doesn't mean that they're being received, but I do know that as I'm flying the plane, it's still responding to normal controls. You know, ailerons are still working, elevators still working, all that kind of thing. Everything seems to be working reasonably normally, and I'm able to fly it down to the field and more or less land it. So anyway, the radio is continuing to work there, but as we begin to look at other things, you see these values that I've highlighted in here, that's the current. Now, when the motor is running, it's drawing a fair bit of current, you know, 14 amps, 6 amps, 3 amps, perhaps dropping off there, but what's the throttle doing? The throttle is dropping off there as well, so that's going along with the throttle. All of a sudden, after this red row, okay, we got the throttle down real low, but it's gradually coming up. But with the current, not really doing much, maybe a tiny bit, it's hard to say, but it's down there at about 1 amp. And here, when the throttle is low, let's see, the throttle 400 to 600, say around when it's around 400, the current is, where's the current? Is around 3 amps. And here around 400, it's 0 and you know, 0.7 an amp. These are values that are consistent with when the thing is sitting there not doing anything, you know, when the throttle is turned off and just normal power related to the electronics sitting there doing nothing. This tells me that it's consistent as far as what I said with regard to a power loss. Gradually, I'm going up and up and up on the throttle, and then I panic and I say I've lost power, and then my throttle is gone all the way up to full throttle, and it stays all the way up there at full throttle all the way until we get to the end here where the current absolutely quits. And where's our altitude? We've gone down, we've hit the ground before then, okay? So someplace in here, while we still have the throttle at maximum throttle, we've hit the ground, and then I've cut the throttle. As you think about that, that's consistent with the matter of power loss. Now, if you're not good at looking at numbers and you prefer pictures, you can turn this into a graph. And for some people, this is confusing. Other people, it's great, you know, so, you know, not everybody is the same. But here's a graph of especially important things. We got the elevator, what the transmitter is saying for the elevator to do, throttle, what the transmitter is telling the throttle to do, current, what is actually happening with regard to the airplane drawing current, voltage, the actual battery voltage in the airplane, and A2 voltage, which is the voltage being provided to the receiver. So first thing, looking at green and yellow, green, steady across other than our little glitch. The big dip there, that's where we had that glitch where everything went to 0. But the voltage steady other than just after we've, you know, when the thing quits drawing power, then the voltage recovers a teensy tiny bit. But basically plenty of battery voltage. And the yellow there, apart from the glitch and that 1/2 second thing where it went down, other than that, receiver voltage staying good. So all of that is saying that the receiver should be fine in terms of having power to do things. So power is not the issue. We then have a look at the throttle and current. And the throttle and current is the red and this purple. So as you see these two things going together through there, that's throttle and current. And they're basically going together until we get here, and then all of a sudden we got throttle going to full throttle and current just dropping down here to next to nothing. Okay, so we are saying that definitely we did have a failure as far as the motor not providing thrust. It's not doing anything. So the question then is, what caused this power loss? Well, two things that you want to look at straight away. One is the fail-safe mode that a ESC goes into, and the other is what sort of fail-safe mode does a receiver go into. Now, if a receiver went into a fail-safe mode, what it would do is it would cut the throttle, and it would set all of your controls to a fixed position. So your elevator, rudder, ailerons, they would all be in a fixed position. It'd either be the last position that it had received a signal for, or a preset position that you have set. Now, yes, the throttle was cut, but no, the ailerons and all of that were working. I was able to turn the plane, bring it around, bring it in for a landing. Okay, so controls were working and all of that. That's not consistent with a receiver going into a fail-safe mode. What about the ESC? Well, with the ESC, the fail-safe mode is something to protect you from a loss of power. So as your battery is going down with time, and if you've been up there too long and it's getting to where it's in danger of not being able to power anything, what it does is the ESC will cut power to the motor, so no power to the motor, but it'll maintain power to the receiver so that the flight controls can work and you can land your airplane, so you can glide it in or whatever. And that's exactly what happened here. So what I'm expecting, or suspecting, whatever, the most likely cause here is that this receiver, something happened in the radio waves and it had a hold. That's not terribly unusual. They happen, okay? So for a half second, it had lost the power. Maybe it was close to a full second, but it showed up on that 1/2 second on the telemetry. Okay, so the receiver had a hold, but it immediately regained and was doing fine. But that hold apparently sent some sort of glitch to the ESC to throw it into fail-safe mode. Shouldn't have happened, and especially after the glitch was over and everything is cruising along fine and the receiver is sending proper signals to everything, the ESC has continued to stay in that fail-safe mode. So I think most likely we're talking about a failure on the part of the ESC. Now I can try to see if I can get that to happen again, but I think most likely we'll just simply put in a new ESC and see if we have any further problems going along, but that's the most likely approach. Well, I'm RC Jim. I trust that this has been helpful to you. Take what degree of it you can digest. You know, some of it is a bit technical and complicated, but I think the overall emphasis of what's going on is sensible and something that most of you will be able to apply and to get some benefit from. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe and then have a look at some of the other videos on our channel. I trust that you'll find those helpful as well. You have a great day, enjoy your flying, and may all your landings be happy ones.